Good morning. Thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see old faces and new faces. Thank you for coming. We're just going to start with our prayer and then we can proceed. Father God, I thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for your presence here with us. And thank you for the knowledge that you give us and for the wisdom that you give us in the Bible. And I pray that this talk on such an important issue would be helpful to everyone here. And I pray that you will help us to just encourage and support one another. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes. So, that's okay. So it's going to be a bit interactive. If you can save questions for the end, that would be great. So just make a note of it. And yes, let's go. So pausing for the menopause. So why pause for the menopause? All of us as women, we will go through it. Everyone will know somebody who is going through the menopause, and everyone's experience is different. Quite often, people don't talk about it. It's sensitive, and we just keep it to ourselves. So it's important to break the silence and to talk about it. And knowledge helps to empower us, and as we are empowered, we can help other people and empower them as well. And we can help the men in our lives understand what we're going through. And very importantly, God cares about everything that's happening to us, and he cares about the menopause, and he gives us wisdom in the Bible for every aspect of our lives, including this. And just a question that I want you to just think about throughout the talk, and then we can see if anyone has any ideas at the end. How can the church support women during the menopause? So, some interaction. So if you can just have a think about the names that you've heard the menopause been called before, just shout it out for me. The change, yes. The change. Anything else? Did you say something, Nikki? So I had a Google, and yes, the change was a big one, and there are lots of other ones that I had never heard before. Private summer, never heard of that one. The hot flash club. So you might hear people refer to it in many different ways. But yeah, we're all talking about the same thing, menopause. So again, a bit of interaction, and I'll get Ruth to come up now. I'll be her handy assistant.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit of a true and false quiz. I need 4 volunteers just to hold a buzzer to see and answer the question to see if you're right or wrong. It's just a bit of fun, so please don't think that you need to know anything. But if anybody would like to come out, I need 4 people. Yes, thank you, Vicky. Yes, Marianne, come on. One more. Come on, Nikki. Let me go on this side. Okay. Are we ready? So what I want you to do is it's the fastest finger on the buzzer to answer the question, okay? And they are all true and false, so. Okay. Oh no. That's gone to number 4. Hang on. Yeah, go on. You come and do this and I'll do that. I know. Where is Jim? I don't know why that's done that.
You can have a think about this one.
I'm trying to press. Is that the idea? How do we know what we're pressing?
Oh, so you press it and then you shout out. Whoever presses first gets to shout out whether they think it's true or false. Pardon? Pardon?
The questions don't show on there. They're on here, but they're not.
Oh, no. Okay.
I can read them out from my phone if you like.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Starla. All right. 1 second. Okay, so fastest one to answer. Oh, hang on, where has it gone? Okay. True or false? The perimenopause can start in your 30s. True. Can someone keep score? Well done. Okay, question 2. All women going through the menopause experience hot flushes and night sweats. Shit. False, correct. You didn't. That's good to hear. A blood test is needed to diagnose the menopause.
I'm going to go yes, true. I'm saying false.
Would you say false? It's false. It's false. A woman can be on HRT for 20 years or more. True. Yeah. A woman can get pregnant on HRT. True, it is true. HRT is strongly linked to breast cancer. False. That's the nurse in you. Well done, Vicky. Well done. Okay, last one. The menopause means saying goodbye to a good sex life. Go on, that was you, Shirley. False. Well done. Anybody kept score?
Shirley are both the leaders.
Hey, well done, ladies. Thank you for doing that. Right, let's go.
Oops, wrong way.
If anyone gets cold, let me know.
Yeah, Great. So I hope you learned something there just now. So let's just go into definitions and understanding exactly what we're talking about. So what is the menopause? So the menopause, if you think of the word meno, thinking about menstruation or bleeding, and pause, stopping. So it's when your periods have stopped. Most women go through it between the ages of 45 to 55, and the average age in the UK is 51. Now, when have you actually gone through the menopause? So it's not just your period stopping for 5 months and you say, okay, I'm menopausal, or I've gone through the menopause. No. If you're over 50, it has to be 12 consecutive months to then say you've gone through the menopause. If you reach 11 months and then you start to bleed again, you got to start over. Sorry. If you're between 40 and 50, it actually has to be 2 years of no periods to say that you've gone through the menopause. Some women can go through it early. So some women can go through it between the ages of 40 and 45. And there's another condition for women who are actually under 40, where they can display symptoms associated with the menopause, and these women, they need further investigations because they will need treatment for it. So I've just included a slide about postmenopause, just because it is important to know if you do bleed after you've gone through the menopause, you need to seek medical attention. So menopause is that one period in time. Any time after the menopause is postmenopause. So from the time you've not had a period for 12 or 24 months up until death, you're postmenopausal. So any bleeding or spotting during that time, you need to see a GP because we just need to make sure there's nothing serious like a type of cancer that could be causing it. There are lots of other reasons for it, but it's important to rule that out. So perimenopause. So quite often when people say that they're going through the menopause, this is what they mean. The stage before they've not had a period for the 12 or 24 months. And that's where you get all the symptoms that we'll go on to talk about. Quite often, women's periods can be irregular. It can be heavy or light. They can last longer or shorter. It often starts in the 40s and it can last 4 to 10 years. And why is this all happening? So it's all about the hormones. As you can see from birth, you have a almost steady supply of estrogen, progesterone. But when you start to hit close to your 40s, that's when it starts to drop, and it can be very erratic. And that's where you get a lot of the symptoms that we'll go on to talk about. So one of my friends, who is really sad that she couldn't be here, she's actually done some videos to explain her experience in the menopause. So I will just play this now. Oops. Let's go back. We're just going to raise the volume. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jackie,
Yeah.
and I've got a personal and professional interest in menopause. Personal because I'm currently going through it myself, and professional in my background of counselling and psychotherapy. So I was very honoured when Starla asked me if I'd be willing to share some of my experience of menopause so far and symptoms and things like that. So I'm 52 now, and I would say that my symptoms probably started when I was early 40s, 41, 42, and that was with weight gain. So I could eat a Sunday lunch and put 3 pounds on, and then not lose the 3 pounds and then put some more on. And it really was, I couldn't shift weight as easy as I used to be able to, and clothes felt really uncomfortable, and still do on me, especially around my tummy area. Bloating is another one. And also, I would say feeling extreme temperatures, so extreme warm, extreme cold. So I would have night sweats and wake up drenched, having to change my pyjamas a couple of times a night. And then the opposite end of the spectrum, feeling really cold, having a blanket wrapped around me and 2 pairs of socks on, that kind of thing. Other things that I probably wasn't expecting, my eyebrows went really thin, and to the point where I have to have them drawn up, and spots. So it was like puberty in reverse, really. So instead of things budding and blossoming, it was very much shrinking and shrivelling, but with symptoms very much like puberty, mood swings, irritability, that kind of thing. And I would say then from my early 50s, as I turned 50, I started to notice other symptoms. So some of the symptoms had eased, so I wasn't getting as many night sweats. But I was then starting to experience things like vaginal dryness, which at first I thought it was a urinary tract infection, but my test kept coming back clear. And one of the benefits of having a friend such as Starla, who was a GP, she was able to advise me to make an appointment with my own GP about that. So yeah, so those are my symptoms so far.
Yeah, so, Jackie's mentioned a number of symptoms there, and this is just a slide showing all the, well, not all, but a lot of the symptoms associated. So you can see that is very diverse from your head to your bones and your feet. Headaches, hot flushes we know about, problems with sleep, even tummy problems, heartburn, bloating. So there's so much that it can be a bit difficult to diagnose it just because it crosses so many other possible illnesses. So how do we diagnose it? One of the questions was, do we need a blood test? So yes and no. So if the person is over 45, a blood test is not needed, because we kind of expect that you will be going through those symptoms. And if you remember that graph that I showed you, the hormones started to fluctuate at that period of time. So doing a blood test to check a hormone level is not going to be accurate or something that you can trust. But if you're under that age, that's when a blood test is helpful. So managing the symptoms. So just very briefly going through lifestyle, hormone replacement therapy, a little bit about alternatives. So again, another video from Jackie.
So what have I found helpful? in managing my symptoms. Online research, there's a lot of information online now, TikTok and YouTube, and also documentaries such as the Davina McCall one. I think a lot of women have found really interesting and informative. And one of the main changes that I've introduced, which I've found to be beneficial, is diet. And so eating more whole foods, less processed food, so things like Greek yogurt, eggs, beans, lentils, fish, introducing that into my diet, as well as healthy fats such as avocado. I've found makes a real difference into how I feel, mood-wise, and also I've found I've been less bloated since I've been consciously following a more healthier diet. I've also tried to find exercise that works for me. I did try going to the gym, I tried running. It's not for me. If it is, we're all different, that's great. If that works for you, that's great. And obviously we've got to be aware of our own physical limitations as well. But for me, I find walking helps. It helps me in fitness levels, it helps me to clear my mind. It can be quite spiritual as well, to walk and pray. So I found that incredibly beneficial. But also I made an appointment with my GP after speaking with Starla regarding the vaginal dryness, because I did think it was something I just had to live with. It was just one of those symptoms that was this. I had to just put up with it. And I was incredibly happy to realise I didn't have to. So I've been prescribed a very mild HRT pessary cream, which has worked wonders. And so that has gone a long way into helping me feel much, much better in myself anyway in general. So I would say the main takeaways from this is just speak to each other, a sense of community, whether that is online, getting advice, or speaking with each other, being more open about talking about menopause, because we're in a different era now. We're not the older generation where it's taboo and it's to be just put up with and got through. It is something that does affect us, and we need to be talking about it. And the more we do, the more support we get, the more we can give each other and encourage each other.
Yeah, so lifestyle, I was so glad that Jackie spoke about that first, because I just think it's so important and something that we all can do. And it has such amazing benefits, not just for the menopausal period, but for every aspect of your health, mental and physical. Some practical things that you can do if you're having night sweats, hot flushes, would be like lighter clothing, cotton, making sure you have a fan in the room, windows open, those sort of things. So HRT, or hormone replacement therapy. So what is it? So exactly what it says, it is replacing the hormones that are being depleted or are being lost, and estrogen is the main one that helps with the symptoms. So quite often with HRT, we talk about estrogen and progesterone, both hormones. The progesterone is needed for women who still have their womb or their uterus to protect it. So if you haven't had a hysterectomy, if you haven't had your womb removed, you still need both of them. If you have, then estrogen alone is fine to help with the symptoms. And there's so many different types of HRT. There are gels, there are pills, patches, spray. That's a coil, a hormone coil. That's a progesterone part of the HRT. And basically discussing with your GP to see what is best for you given your individual circumstance and your preference is important. So is it safe? There's been so much in the news. This Women's Health Initiative study, which basically said, don't use HRT because you can get breast cancer. And the Davina McCall documentary kind of brought it all to the light that actually is not as bad as they said. And hence why we have so many more women coming to get HRT, which is good. So the safety is based on your individual risk and lifestyle factors. And With regards to breast cancer, if a woman already has a high risk of breast cancer, that is different, and you probably need to think about specialist opinion. But if she doesn't have a high risk, so if she doesn't have a strong family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer, then actually there's only a very tiny risk associated in women over 50 if it's taken for more than 5 years. And when she stops the HRT, that is, the risk actually goes back to what it would have been if she'd never taken it before. And what I like to tell people who are concerned about the risk is that actually being obese and drinking a lot of alcohol increases your risk so much more than HRT anyway. So if you're really concerned about risk, probably deal with those issues if they're a problem for you first. So there are some other concerns about clots in your legs or your lungs, about heart disease or stroke. Generally, they only pose a problem if they started when a woman is older. And generally, having estrogen via the skin, so either the spray or the gel or the patch, is safer than taking a tablet. So there are ways around it. And in addition to that, one of the best things you can do is actually reduce the other risk factors for heart disease, stroke, or clots. So not smoking, no alcohol, eating healthily. And there are certain progesterones that are safer. So why HRT? So the guidance that doctors, nurses, that we all use, they all agree that it's the first line, our best treatment for managing the hot flushes, night sweats, and mood swings, mood problems associated with the menopause. And it also can be good for vaginal problems and sexual problems, low libido. So I just wanted to take an opportunity, because if we don't talk about it now, we probably will never talk about it, about managing sexual problems related to menopause. It's become so important that there's actually a term for it, genitourinary symptoms of the menopause, GSM for us medics. Jackie mentioned some of them in her video, which was very helpful: vaginal dryness and itching, loss of libido, sex can be painful, increased urinary tract infections, and sometimes leaking urine. So these, I'm sure for everyone here, they're not pleasant physically, and if you're in a relationship, probably not pleasant for the strengthening of your relationship either. Sadly, a lot of women I see, one of the things that they mention is the fact that they can put up with the hot sweats, put up with the hot flushes, but it's affecting their marriage because they don't feel like having sex and their partners don't understand. And because of this, I think it's so important that we talk to our partners. So talk to each other, but also talk to our partners to explain to them how you're feeling, let them know it's not them or it's not your attraction to them. Let them know that it's not even you as an individual. A lot of women go through this. And hopefully, by having these conversations, you can help work through it together. And there are other ways of being intimate as well. Vaginal estrogen. So as a medic, quite often we get very excited when a patient comes back and say, yay, the treatment works. And this is one of those where I feel like probably 99% of the time, people come back saying, oh my gosh, it's worked. So it can be a cream or a pessary in the vagina. And basically, as you are losing estrogen, that affects the lining of your vagina. So that's why it can get dry and itchy and why it becomes more painful to have sex. And we're just replacing it. And it's very safe. Using the cream or the pessary in the vagina for a year is almost the equivalent of taking one HRT tablet. So it's a very, very tiny dose that gets absorbed in the rest of the body, is all local. Vaginal lubricants can be used as well to help. And one of the brands that medics recommend is the Yes brand, but use whatever you feel like using. Well, not whatever, but you know what I mean. And HRT can help with the low libido as well. as in HRT meaning the tablets or the topical ones. There's also psychosexual counseling that can help, and testosterone is very topical at the moment. Testosterone gel, topical, but it isn't licensed in the UK for women, but there are some HRT clinics that will prescribe it, private HRT clinics that is. I just thought it was important to talk about contraception as well, because yes, you can get pregnant on HRT, even if you're going through the menopause or have gone through the menopause, there's still a slight risk. So basically, contraception is not needed after the age of 55. But even if you've had that full year or 2 years of going through the menopause, there is still the chance that you could get pregnant in the first year or two after that. So we still recommend to use contraception if you don't want a pregnancy. And there are, for women who can't take HRT or who don't want to take HRT, there are other things that can be used. So cognitive behavioral therapy, that is shown to help with the mood symptoms of the menopause, as well as insomnia and even the night sweats. There are herbal remedies that people can get from health shops. The only thing I would say about this is that you should still speak to your GP about it, because these have side effects and these can interact with other medications that you might be taking. So just because it's herbal, it doesn't mean that it's completely risk-free. And as well, some antidepressants and this other medication, clonidine, they can be used for hot flushes as well, but they shouldn't be offered first line. So just a last video from Jackie, just offering a bit of encouragement.
Interestingly, from a psychological perspective, perimenopause and menopause can be seen as a transitionary period for women. It can also be one of the busiest times of a woman's life. Just thinking of some of my friends and colleagues, they are working, they have some of them young children, some of them grown-up children, grandchildren they're caring for elderly parents, partners, and so it is an incredibly busy time of a woman's life. So far from being a time where, even though physically our bodies might be winding down, of course the demands on us are probably increasing. So that's something that I think we need to bear in mind, and we're then able to support each other through those times and encourage each other, hold each other up, lift each other up. And for a lot of women, the time of menopause can be a time where they start to look at, reevaluate their sense of purpose. I know women who've had career changes, quite significant career changes during their menopausal years. Some might take on more responsibilities within church, within leadership roles and things like that, or it can be done on a more quieter level, where we're partly supporting each other, just being there for each other and lifting each other up. So I think that's probably one of the main reasons why we need to be looking after ourselves physically and looking after each other in a community sense as well.
Yes, so that's the end of my talk for now. So Wendy's just going to come as well and share some very important stuff with regards to what the Bible has to say about how we can support each other. It doesn't say anything specific about the menopause, but there's lots of wisdom that can be applied to this situation.
Oh yeah. Thank you for coming. There's so much that could be said about this time of life, and I just thought I'd keep it to 10 minutes, so I'm going to say a very small, some small thoughts that that came to mind as I was reading and preparing, and the thing that I wanted to talk about is we've been pausing for the menopause, but let's pause and consider the limitations that come to us at this time of our life. We've heard all about the symptoms of the menopause from Starla. Not very fun, eh? Lots of them. And many of these symptoms remind us of our limitations as human beings. One symptom that I've noticed over the last few months is that I don't remember things the way that I used to. I used to have a good memory, and now I'll rush up the stairs for something. So 10 seconds rushing up the stairs, no clue what I came up for. And it's happening more often than it used to. And it's frustrating, and I feel limited. I don't know if you've got some similar experiences. Night sweats bring broken sleep, and that brings tiredness. And that brings limitations to our concentration during the day. Brain fog encroaches, and we find we achieve less in a day than we used to, and we feel our capacity is limited. Circumstances during this time of life can really limit us. As Jackie mentioned, caring responsibilities for children, for parents, for disabled relatives, so many different people depending on us. Work can have a huge limiting factor on our time. Money can limit us. And then one day, as Starla was saying, our periods stop. And that reminds us that a major part of our life is over and we're on to the next phase, and that it reminds us that our life has a limit, and it reminds us of a mortality. And knowing the limitations of the menopause isn't unique to, knowing the limitations of our lives isn't unique to the menopause, is it? As humans, we're often confronted with our limitations through our life. But during the menopause, a new layer of limitations is revealed. We become much more aware and more limited, and we feel frustrated with ourselves and our limitations. Why can't we cope the way we used to? Why can't we juggle what we used to without dropping the ball? And why is life so overwhelming? We're going to turn and just think for a minute about, I don't know how to, there we are, to Psalm 16, to this one verse in Psalm 16. Now, I know that David was definitely not menopausal when he wrote this, but he does talk about a limit, and I think that has something to say to us. So David was in this psalm, he was praising God for all the good things in his life, and this is what he says: "The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance." Boundary lines are limits, and geographical boundary lines are physical limits. And David may have been pleased with the land that God had given him. It was the promised land after all. But in this context of the psalm, I think it's wider than that. And David is thanking God for the limits that he has put on his life. And whether you're in the menopause or not, I wonder if you can say with David, "The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places." Yet being content with our limits is key to our joy, and it's key to our spiritual health. So how can we get to the point where David is at here and be able to say this verse: "The boundary lines for me have fallen in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance"? How can we see the limits of the menopause in a positive way. So, number one, when you feel your limits, use it to help you to worship God. We are created limited beings. As human beings, our limitations are part of our design. We are made in God's image, but we are still created beings. Even the Garden of Eden thought it would be good to be like God, unlimited in knowledge. But our good God has put limits on humans right from the beginning, and it was good. It's good that we have limits. And when we feel our limits, we are reminded that we are not God. God is limitless on all fronts. He's infinite, he's all-powerful, he's omnipresent, and he's all-knowing. But we are not. And that's not a mistake. It's not part of the fall. We were created to be limited. And when we feel our limits, it can cause us to remember our God who is unlimited and to worship him. Worship the God who is so far above us in every way. The psalmist in Psalm 147 realizes this, and he says, "Great is our God and mighty in power. His understanding has no limit." So the first thing we can do is, when we feel our limits, is use it to help us worship God. The second thing is we can use it to help us grow in humility, which is where we want to be at spiritually as Christians, isn't it? Our culture teaches us to be strong, independent women at all times, and whilst there's a place for this, in 2 Corinthians, Paul describes us as human beings as jars of clay. And clay is brittle and breakable, and don't we feel like that sometimes? 2 Corinthians talks about the treasure of the knowledge of God's glory. And then he says, but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. It humbles us. Being weak from God's perspective is okay. In fact, it's more than okay, because when we are weak, God's power is shown more clearly to our world, who desperately need God's power in their lives. When I was fostering full-time, it felt so overwhelming, and I knew that the task was beyond me. And it was good to acknowledge that I couldn't do it on my own, to acknowledge that I was weak. And I lent on my church family in that time, especially, and the help that they gave me showed God's power through the church that he had built. Depending on our church family can be one way in which we display God's glory. So don't hesitate to reach out for help. It shows God's glory through our weakness. And when we are weak, most importantly, we feel our need for the Lord more acutely. Being strong all the time, over time, it does cause us to forget our need of God. So our own weakness and our own limitations are a spiritual blessing to us. So the menopause is a great time for remembering that we need God when we feel weak, when our brain has gone to mush, when we've missed yet another email from school or work, when we feel tired and irritable, we can call out to the Lord for help. And we can stop, and we can pray. We have a God who is powerful and unlimited in capacity. And because we have a God like that, we can rest in our limitations and rely on him. And we can rejoice in the weakness that keeps us humble and keeps us dependent on God. And also our weakness can prompt us to reassess all the things that we do. Much of what we do, let's face it, isn't optional. We have to go to work. We have to care for family. But are there some things that we need to draw back on from at times? Are there changes that we need to make to our lives? And are there things that we can ask for help with from our support networks, whether it's family, friends, or church family? So we can use this time of menopause when we feel our limits to help us worship God. We can use it to help us grow in humility. And feeling our limits can also help us to remember our inheritance. The verse that we looked at, the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. As our period stops, it draws a line under one stage of our lives, and we're reminded of our mortality. Our death is drawing nearer. Our lives have a limit, and we become more aware. But as Christians, we have a great freedom from fear. We have a great freedom from fear that the end of our lives can bring. We have a delightful inheritance. Because of Jesus' death for us, we don't need to fear life's end. We have a future in heaven with Jesus to look forward to. I just want to finish by spending a few minutes in prayer, just thinking about these things and bringing them to the Lord. So let's pray. Thank you, God, that you are limitless in power. You are unlimited geographically. You are not bound by time. You are awesome, and we worship you. You are so far above us in every way. Lord, when we rail against the limits that you have given us, we feel frustrated and despondent. Please help us to accept the good limits that you have placed on our lives. When we feel limits of time, we ask for your help in knowing if we are taking on things that are part of our priorities but not part of yours. Give us wisdom, Lord. Help us to know if there are things that we should let go of. When we feel the limits of capacity, give us humility to ask for help. Help us to invest in community, that we will have people to ask for help, and at other times people to offer help too. And help us in all the things to depend on you. Help us to start each day asking for strength for the things that you would have us do. Help us to start each day asking for wisdom to prioritize the things that are most needed and not to get distracted by less important things. And we thank you for our delightful inheritance. Because of your death on the cross, Jesus, our future is not just decline. Our ultimate future is life with you in heaven. Amen. Just before we go to any Q&A, there's a couple of books that I've been reading. This one is called Pause, How to Enjoy and Find Hope and Bear Fruit Through Midlife and the Menopause. And it's got some stories in, it's got loads of biblical wisdom. There was so much in this book, and I hardly used any of it. So you'll be able to learn loads from that. There's 4 copies of that at the back. It's usually £7, but you can have it for £5. So if you want it, just either put £5 in the red box or do a bank transfer to the church. This one, I've only got one copy of, but you're welcome to borrow it, it's mine. This is really, really good book, and it spans not just menopause, but the whole of, it's called A Brief Theology of Periods. Yes, really. and it includes menopause. It's talking a lot about the whole of being a woman, right from when your periods start till right through to the menopause. There's some really interesting questions in the back as well that are answered, if you've ever wondered. Which was the one? I can't find it, but it was something like, are periods part of the fall, or are they part of the original creation? I thought, I really want to know that. So if you want to know the answer to that, then have a look at this book. Right, shall we do some Q&A?